David, good morning. How are you, my friend? Are you excited for today's action?
I am pumped. I've been waiting all season for this. We've known for a while now that this was a great team that was poised for a playoff run. So it's kind of like the last couple months, we're like, all right, we know they're good. We know that they're a cup team. Let's see if it translates.
Very spoiled by the excellence that they were putting up.
Oh, yeah, so spoiled after the last 30 years, for sure. Very spoiled this year, Brendan.
No, I just mean by like the idea, like we got it. Like they were so good, and we're like, this team, okay, we think this team is really, really good. And it was kind of like, all right, let's just get this playoffs already. Because it does feel like it all comes down to this, right? Like they had this amazing regular season, you win the damn President's Cup, but they got to win the playoff series. And you just want to go in there and meet expectations.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like they were so good this year that it's kind of silly to think that they're not going to have some level of success in the playoffs. But then tradition and the last, basically the entire franchise's existence kind of seeps into the back of your mind, and you're like, yeah, they should be good, but history, and so yeah, obviously there's that in the back of your mind. But I mean, science tells us that this should be a team that plays for the next 6 to 8 weeks, right?
Yeah. Is what happened last year unfortunate? Because if they had played any other team, they would have gone farther in the playoffs last year.
Yeah, no doubt. Like that was probably the best playoff series of every playoff series that was played last year, including right up to the final. They were still talking about it as this year went on. So yeah, they probably would have gone farther. But in terms of, a learning experience and kind of the mountains you have to climb to reach that ultimate peak, I think that's something that a lot of championship teams have to go through. You've got to, deal with that adversity, learn those lessons. So that way, when you get to now, you can build on that and learn from that. So, obviously it sucked last year and it was a great series and Tampa went on to win the Stanley Cup. But yeah, I think it was necessary. They still talk about it. They're still talking about it at the ice then yesterday, what they learned, building from that. And ultimately I think the Panthers and the Lightning could end up playing each other again, despite Tampa getting stomped last night.
Oh my God.
I still think Tampa ends up coming out on top in that series, but either way, this playoff should be really entertaining. And I'm telling you guys, if the Panthers don't make it out of the first round this year, I don't know what's going to happen in Sunrise. I'm kind of afraid for like the anti-parade that might go strolling down Sunrise Boulevard.
So, David, here's my question. We all know how playoff hockey is a little bit different than regular season hockey. But is this year going to be an exception to that rule? Because the Panthers score so much. Can they make it through this playoff and win a Stanley Cup, just outscoring everybody and not needing, Bob as much as other teams would need their goalie?
I mean, that's kind of the question, right, Leroy? Like, traditionally, things tighten up in the playoffs. And if that does happen, it's been a topic of concern for the Panthers just as they've scored so much. But that's something that swings both ways. So if it's going to tighten up for the Panthers, it's going to tighten up for the opponents as well. So scoring, if it comes down, it'll come down both ways. However, it's not like a sure thing. It's not a guarantee. And this is a Panthers team that was historically good scoring goals this year. No team had scored as many goals as this Panthers team since I think 1996, when the Detroit Red Wings set a NHL record for wins that year that still stands to this day. So I'm curious to see how that plays out, just because the Panthers have been so good at imposing their style of play on basically everybody they've opposed this year. Is that going to continue? In the first round, it would not surprise me, just because the Capitals' biggest deficiency is probably their goaltending. Like, they're a team that's got some offensive firepower. They've got some decent guys in the back end, but their goaltending has been a big question mark. So this series is not a good matchup for the Washington Capitals. It's a good matchup for the Panthers, especially considering they're a team that hasn't been out of the first round since 96. But that's kind of a great question that I'm really curious to see how it plays out, because this team was historically good at scoring goals. Is it going to continue in the playoffs? If it does, all bets are off at that point. Cash your Panthers ticket.
Well, if last night is an indication, you're ready for a lot of goals scored.
So it was crazy scores last night. But David, like, can you explain for guys who are going to hop on the cat wagons tonight, get into the playoff atmosphere? Like, why did this Panthers team become even more potent offensively? Like, what were the keys to this being an historically great offense, where they just seemingly didn't matter what the deficit was? Like, they could be down 4-0, they could be down whatever, and they seemingly had the opportunity to make a comeback and win a lot of games. What what clicked even more for the Panthers this year when it came to their offensive firepower?
I think it's a combination of the foundation guys, the Barkov, Huberdeau, Aaron Ekblad until he got hurt. Like those guys are coming into their prime years. They're all, exiting their mid-20s and entering what should be the very best years of their career. You combine that with Bill Zito, the general manager, creating this amazingly deep roster, adding, the Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett, adding, Carter Verhaeghe's been a great piece. Anthony Duclair, Mason Marchment, the rookie Anton Lindell. You just go down the list. There's so much depth on this team that even when Barkov and Huberdeau, who granted, if you look at their scoring, they didn't take many nights off. They weren't left on the score sheet very often. But if there was a night where, for whatever reason, Barkov doesn't score, Huberdeau doesn't score, there's still, 4, 5, 6 other guys that are popping in multiple points. So this team comes at you in waves. Like you can't shut down one line. You can't shut down one unit. You can't say, okay, well, we're going to trap the neutral zone. Because no, then they're just going to dump it behind you. They're going to push you forward with their defensemen. And they're going to use their speed, which they have a lot of as well. Honestly, like it just comes down to like a perfect storm coming together. Bill Zito stepped into this role. He saw, the pieces he had to work with, and he added some amazing complementary guys. And that's what's transformed. It's been great. And then you talk about the comebacks. That's where guys like Patrick Hornquist, Radko Gudas, that's where these championship caliber guys, these work hard mentality guys come into play, because this is a team. And you ask any guy in the room, they'll tell you they don't take a shift off, regardless of whether they're up by 3, down by 3. They're a team that just pushes and pushes. And that's why you saw those crazy comebacks. So it's really just come together so well. And it looks like the stars are aligning for this team to go on a good playoff run. It's just, let's get there. It's here. Well, let's go. Let's see if it's going to happen.
And my guy, I love me some Sergei Bobrovsky. All right. Oh, yeah. That's my dude. But I guess the question is, where do you think he is at right now? Like he seemed like he came into this season having, definitely his best run as a Panther, had the thing where he got hurt with taking the puck out of the face, came back, had some shaky performances. Where is your confidence level in Bob right now? And what do you think is the leash on him? Like if he does struggle, is Spencer Knight a viable option to pick up the slack at his age, or are they going to need Sergei to be good? It sounds silly, but like, are they going to need him to be viable if they're gonna advance and go deep into this thing?
Well, Spencer Knight is certainly a capable backup goalie. He just turned 21 years old, but I have no issue with Spencer Knight being stable. I think he's very consistent. But in terms of my confidence level in Sergei Bobrovsky, it's probably higher at this moment than it had been most of the season, just based on how he finished things out. Because you talk about those 2 games where he struggled after he took the puck in the face in Los Angeles, and he was a little under the weather, and he came back and he had those 2 really, really bad starts against New Jersey and Toronto, both games that the Panthers ended up coming back and winning. But I think Bob right now is really rounded into a decent form. I think the big difference for me is he's making a lot more of the high danger, unexpected saves with a bit more consistency than we've seen out of him in the past. I think you're always going to see him give up maybe a leaky goal, a frustrating eye roll of a goal. I think that's just kind of part in the way his game is right now. That's why he doesn't get a lot of shutouts. He did get 3 shutouts this year, which is a big number for Bob. But, for a goalie of that caliber, you would expect more. But I think late in the season, he really rounded out. His game went to another level. He's making these really athletic, spectacular saves with consistency. And I think that's the difference for me, because if he's taking a couple of those goals that would normally get scored off the board, you can live with a leaky one here or there, because ultimately he's making the big saves, which is in turn boosting the bench, giving everybody confidence that he's going to make a big stop if they give up a 2-on-1 or a breakaway or whatever. So right now, my confidence in Bob is probably at a season high, which it's a great time, obviously, for that. Hopefully it computes to the playoffs. But to answer your ultimate question, they're going to need their goalie to be good. As you get deeper into the playoffs, whether the scores are 4-3 or whether the scores are 2-1, there are probably going to be some tight games where you're going to need some big saves in the third period. And I'm probably more confident in Bob to make those saves now than I have been in his tenure as a Florida Panther.
High danger saves, Leroy. The danger zone. How about that?
All right.
High danger, not just regular danger.
I'm going with history.
No, don't go with history. Why can't you have a little bit more optimism? We're going to the playoffs. It's Bob time, dude.
I am optimistic, but 4-goal Bob wasn't created
Stop
overnight.
calling him that. Stop calling him 4-goal Bob, but like it's his name. It's not his name. Okay.
Why not?
I don't like it.
I know nobody likes it.
You're being a real
Nobody
bastard.
likes
You're
it.
being a real bastard right now.
I'm not. And like, hopefully they can be the Los Angeles Rams of like 99 or 2000.
Are you going to be strong though, David? Like, are you going to be like, if they, let's say, they go down 0-1 in this series, like, will the nerves and the tight butt cheeks, will they happen immediately because what the expectations are, or is this like, are we going to be a fan base that needs to have a little bit of the guts? Like, we're used to that in basketball, but not in hockey in this town.
I mean, I think going on any playoff run, you need to have a little bit of guts as a fan base. And looking at this team, speaking to what Leroy just said, looking at history, look at the history of the last 6.5 months. This team has fallen behind many times and come out on top. So if they should lose game one, or if they somehow fall behind in the series 2-1 or whatever, I won't be that concerned. This is a Panthers team that has proven time and time again that they can overcome adversity, that they can come back, that they're not gonna be any mental cracks or anything like that in the team. I can't speak to the fan base, and honestly, it's been such a crazy history that this team has been around, and they've been through the ringer so many times that I'm just gonna let them do whatever they're gonna do. My faith is in the team. I do think this team has what it takes to make a run, and falling behind early should not be a concern just because it hasn't been a concern with them all season. They've been the comeback kings.
All right, man. Enjoy the game tonight. We will check in with you again as this playoff run continues. You guys can check out David Dwork at his coverage at Local 10.
Pass a message to Bobrovsky for me.
What's up?
Tell him if he give up 5 goals, he's gonna be in that Subway commercial with Charles Barkley.
Don't put that bad vibes out there, dude. You're being a real bastard.
Bob will be okay.
5 go Bobrovsky.
Have faith.
Knock it off.
Uncomfortable.
Guys, uncomfortable. I'll never forget that. Guys, you guys can follow David Dwork. Check out his work at WPLG Local 10. He's covering the Panthers for them. And of course, his Chirping the Cats podcast. Thanks for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, David.
Anytime, Bellas. Have a great one.
All right. We will wrap things up on the other side. Back with more after this.